Well, it looks to me like we have quorum. So let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome everyone to the it's October 2023 PowerShell community call. Thank you all for attending. We really look forward to having this community call. And as I keep saying early on, we have an action-packed agenda today. And so I put that agenda along with the link to the agenda, and you can also drop in questions there, or you can drop in questions into the chat. So we'll go ahead and get started with that agenda today. I'm Jason. I'm going to be your host today. Good to see you all. Here we go. So in today's agenda, one of the first things and I am so excited to finally be able to say, hey, Sydney, can you talk about PS Resource Get the GA?
You should unmute.
Okay.
Okay, I think we were just figuring out our muting system. Jason or Steven and I are in the same room, so hopefully you can hear us.
It's pretty quiet.
It's quiet? Okay.
Maybe I'll just come over here. Well,
that sounds a lot better, but
that's better. I'll put this camera on. This is so confusing. Okay, well, anyways, we GA'd! Yay! Thank you so much for all the support. As always, we've talked about this for so many calls, but we finally reached this milestone, which is so huge for us. So thank you again for all the support. Really, really huge shout out. GA is general availability. That's the 1.0 stable release. So really huge release for the team. Thank you so much to Amber, Anam, Aditya, kind of the primary engineers on it, and then everyone else who supported this, whether through issues, PRs, or in any other way. It's taken a lot to get here, but we're at 1.0 and we're not stopping there. If you're kind of curious, like what's next, we are planning a patch release. And so you can see that project in our GitHub repo. Please continue to try out the release. With all of your scenarios, keep opening bugs for us. We're continuing to triage them, and we have kind of our next patch and feature releases starting to manifest and get planned. That's kind of all I had. Oh, will preview 7 include PS Resource Get v1? I'm not sure if this is later on in the agenda, so no spoilers, but the PowerShell 7.4 next preview, which is likely to be an RC, will include PS Resource Get 1.0. We are hoping to get in a patch release of PS Resource Get, just a few little bugs before the PowerShell 7.4 GA. So that's kind of our plan right now. But in the RC for PowerShell 7.4, you will see PS Resource Get 1.0.
That's awesome, Sydney. Congratulations to you and the entire team of Anam, Amber, and Aditya, and everyone else that put in so much effort and time into this. It's been a long project. Hope everybody enjoys it. Please let us know what we can fix. So, and with that, just as celebratory, let's go ahead and go to Andy and talk about the stable release of VS Code.
Good morning, everyone. It's been a hot minute since we did this. Normally I would demo VS Code, but this was honestly a big stabilization release. I'm going to go ahead and share a link to the release notes. But yeah, this is the first stable release we've had of VS Code since our last release in June. So it's been a little bit. A lot of that was team members were busy between vacation, PSConf EU, and travel. But also, I mean, this went through, I counted them up, 6 different pre-releases. So we've been releasing, and thank you to everyone who, subscribes to that pre-release channel in the marketplace and tests this all out, because yes, this was truly a big stabilization release. The majority of these patch notes that I linked are bug fixes. Like your CWD setting now supports tilde. If you want to say the home directory was tilde, that works. It doesn't have to be an absolute directory anymore. Same for the additional PowerShell XE setting, a whole bunch of just like quality of life improvements. We've also got the latest PS Reline is in there now. So we bundle version 2.3.4 of PS Reline. The PS Editor API saw some bug fixes be introduced. If you use that $PS editor variable, you can actually like call .close file on it. So that the API there was a bug or two that we fixed, and then we also noticed that like 90% of several things had been wired up and not turned on. So we turned them on and tested them and went, oh, we should have had those there. So close file, save file, you can use those in the API now. We had some great community contributions. There's now like a start location setting for that extension terminal. Thanks to our community for that. And then a whole paragraph describing a bunch of bug fixes, like around setting error action preference to stop. We found yet another bug where that could cause something, and we've fixed it. We found a race condition when like you would change which version of PowerShell you were using. The status bar item wouldn't update till after it changed, which wasn't great because it should update as soon as you've asked to change. So we fixed that race condition for the final time. The DSC breakpoints now actually work. Those may have been broken for a long time for the majority of users because it was kind of hard coded to look for the DSC module in a particular C program files x86 directory. That does not work. It just looks for them by packet, like by module name now, which then helped us find another bug in testing with the community again through these pre-releases, where there was some stickiness with like a loading thing that would happen once the feature was lit up. So the feature works now, and the bug around the feature was fixed. And then like one more thing that happened in here, just because it was a big release, our underlying library, that Omnisharp library that we use for the LSP server, it's the C# language server protocol, like base abstraction. It went through a big update. We took in that update. We found a bug in their update with some deserialization. We had to work with them to get it fixed, roll in another update. And that actually is great because that brings us up to the latest LSP spec. So we can now support like 3.17 of LSP, which means that our communication between the extension you see in VS Code and the server that powers everything underneath is like up to date and can support all the latest features. Now we still have to implement latest features, but the big blockers out of the way. So yeah, a whole lot of improvements. We really appreciate people using those pre-releases. I don't know how many times I can say that. In fact, like when we went to go release this to stable a month or two ago, we went to check our telemetry and was like, how many people are using pre-release? Because that's what we want to know. And we may have found some stuff broken in telemetry due to some upstream changes with like another team at Microsoft. Our telemetry just was getting completely dropped. We had to fix that. We now have our telemetry, and we're able to see how many of you people are using our pre-release channel, and we're able to feel comfortable moving from pre-release to stable. So please keep that up, and trust us when we say we check those stats. We don't do a stable release unless we know that pre-release has been out there in the wild getting tested. So yeah, thanks so much. Use the stable release if you really need that, but please keep that pre-release channel installed. You can always downgrade with the switch of a button. All right, I think that is it. Thanks so much.
Awesome, Andy. Yeah, folks, keep the feedback coming. You can tell that Andy's working really hard to deliver that stuff. So welcome and congratulations, Andy, on VS Code. Oh man, one of my favorite topics. These are all my favorite topics. It's really killing me today. Stephen, you want to talk about PS Readline, the general availability of PS Readline?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. So I just wanted to announce a couple weeks ago we released the GA version of PS Readline 2.3.4. Like Andy mentioned, it's now included in the extension as well as on the gallery. We're hoping to include it with 7.4 release and not too much changes since the latest previews. So majority of the improvements in the PS Readline latest stable release is around predictors. List view predictors now can scroll. You can have more than 10 results, as well as it will now fit in your window. So a cool thing that will happen now is in CloudShell, you can actually use list view predictors without it silently failing. So Jason is very, very happy about that. He's been waiting for that for a long time. So we're pretty excited to get that out. We also had a bunch of numerous bug fixes and stuff. I will link a blog post that we were working on, or a blog post that highlight some of the other key changes, lots of some stability fixes. You might wonder also, just we had a small regression in 2.3.3 for older versions of Windows, but it was a very small set, but we wanted to make sure we get that fixed. That's why we have 2.3.4 as our GA version, just to clarify any confusion around that. But yeah, similar to what Andy said, please give this a try. Download it, have it used for your daily driver, submit bugs, give us feedback. And like I mentioned, we're hoping to roll this into 7.4. And so everyone will get that with the 7.4 release later this year. So I think I cover everything. Big shout out to Dongbo Wang, who put in a lot of work for this release. I think he's on the call, so just wanted to give a shout out to Dongbo, who really put in a lot of effort with PS Reline this year. So I think that's all I have.
Well, a personal thank you from the entire CloudShell team and all of our customers. Thanks for fixing that. That's awesome. Yeah, and a big shout out to Dongbo. We appreciate all of that work. And now, kind of the moment I think that we all kind of wait for is the discussion around, well, the reason that we're here, which is PowerShell. So let's go ahead and hand it over to Steve Lee and talk about 7.4, the RC.
All right, and just to be clear, like this is the PowerShell SSH community call. So
Yeah.
yes, but the big news is we are heading towards the end of the calendar year, and we are on track for our year release of a update to PowerShell 7. So 7.4 should hit RC1 later this month, and then assuming that .NET themselves ship on schedule, then we'll follow similarly, barring any unforeseen circumstances, and have a GA ideally in November, and then we'll start the 7.5 previews hopefully in December. It kind of depends on who's available during that month and what kind of changes we've had. So one clarity is the master branch in the PowerShell repo right now is 7.5. We are only cherry picking changes into 7.4, actually since the last preview anyways, as we're trying to not introduce any new regressions. So look forward to that. The new PS Reline and PS Resource Get are going to be in 7.4, which is our next LTS. LTS meaning support for 3 years. So there will be one overlap year between 7.2, which is our last LTS, with 7.4. That's pretty much it, I guess. I'm trying to think, was there anything else worth mentioning for 7.4?
It ships with .NET 8, right?
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah.
ship
So,
with-
well,
yeah.
yeah, with every release, we move to the latest version of .NET. So with 7.4, we are moving to we have already moved to .NET 8, and I believe with our RC, it'll be on .NET 8 RC2. So again, that should be hopefully coming soon this month.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
if you guys find any last minute issues in 7.4, please open those up. I do spend Monday community days trying to find those things, and what we triage it. And there are going to be some cases where we're going to say it's too risky to fix, but there are other cases where we can still have opportunity to fix those before we actually have the final version for 7.4. Yep.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
for the clear expectation setting there, especially. That is fantastic. And so looking forward to new PowerShell bits. It's Christmas. Almost.
It's Christmas. That seems to be the tradition now, right? It's the Christmas present to the community. And as Steve mentioned, it's not just the PowerShell call, it's also the OpenSSH call. And it just so happens that Tess is here to talk about OpenSSH. Hi, Tess.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, folks. Just a quick update on OpenSSH. We released the 9.4 GitHub release last week. This was mainly focused on syncing the changes from upstream, but there are two things I just wanted to call out specifically. The first change is within the SSH agent, and it's a change in the default behavior for adding PKCS11 libraries remotely. This change was made upstream in response to a CVE that at a very high level just demonstrated an exploit of sequentially loading specific Linux libraries. Obviously, there's some platform differences, and the Windows SSH agent already spawns a temporary process when loading the PKCS11 libraries. But for a defense in depth measure, we also incorporated the change in default behavior. So this only affects scenarios where the agent has been forwarded and a PKCS11 library is attempting to be loaded remotely. There's a command line argument to override this default behavior and continue to permit this if you wish. That argument just needs to be passed in upon starting the SSH agent. And for more info on that, you can check out the release notes. And then the other change I wanted to mention was with the SSH server. So when starting the server, it will now check the permissions of the program data SSH folder just to verify that only users in the administrator group and system have owner or write access, and any other users only permitted read access on that folder. A similar check already exists in the install script, but that's only for the first time that the server is started. So now we're just checking any time the SSH server is started, just in case after a restart or an update, that service has been stopped. If invalid permissions on the SSH folder are detected, the service will fail to start, and it's kind of a generic system error. So just keep that in mind if you are upgrading to 9.4 and you encounter any issues with SSH server. There's already an issue that's been opened and closed on the GitHub that you can take a look at for that. And as always, thank you for your feedback, and please just open an issue if you encounter any problems with the release. Thanks.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tess. Thank you so much. And with after the OpenSSH, now we're going to transition to my friend Damien. Damien, are you online? And we're going to talk about AZ CLI and Azure PowerShell updates.
Yes, yes, I'm online.
Great.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to share a quick update on the work we're doing around the Azure CLI and the Azure PowerShell command line tools. We've been working on some features in the last few months to improve how we address some scenarios with our client tools. And what we've been looking at is under the cover. So from the command line tool point of view, nothing really changed, but under the cover, we're bringing better consistency between our client tools and Portal. So what it means for you as users of those client tools is that consistency with Portal. So when you deploy your resource, you will have the end state identical, regardless of which environment or which client you're using. It brings the idempotency. One of the biggest challenge we had is around you run the command again, you want to have exactly the same state, and it's not necessarily the case everywhere. So we are bringing that idempotency here. And that allows us to have a what if, like the ability to know what kind of resources would be changed when you run the command against an existing resources, for example. So this is something that we've been working on. It took a lot of effort to get there. But we have a preview. We have a public preview that we've made available not so long ago, but it happened. I heard recently that it wasn't very well known, so I wanted to take the opportunity of this call to share a bit broadly the blog post that we have that explains those features that we have implemented, as well as where to go, how to get the bits, how to try them out. And the most important thing for me and the team is how we get feedback. What is important for us is that you try out, but also that you let us know if you fail, if you find any problems with it, if you find any behavior that is not what you would expect, any issue that you face all up. So we have a form I'm posting in the chat. Go to the forum after you've tried out, let us know what you think. And our goal is to release this at some point in the client tools. We don't have a strict deadline, but I would expect that probably in the next calendar year at some point, in order to make sure that we have a very robust mechanism. We've been trying with Key Vault because it's fairly simple resource provider, and we control that behavior from end to end. But we're going to look at expanding that to other resources on the long run. That's what I wanted to share with you. Again, read the blog post and let us know what you think about it. This is the most important thing for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Damien. That's great. That is really great. Hey, Michael Green, do you want to, let's go off agenda, and do you want to say a few words about DSC?
Yeah, sure. I was just putting in the chat. We didn't have it on the agenda for today, but I just wanted to let everybody know DSC is still making really good progress over in the GitHub repo. It's just github.com/PowerShell/DSC. Very regular check-ins. You're welcome to go comment on issues and let us know. There's a lot of very early for version 3 decisions being made on a ton of new features. So as much feedback as you'd like to give us, even if you don't want to, build it yourself and start tinkering, if you just want to look at the issues and kind of give us your, this is how it would work in my environment, that is greatly appreciated. So thank you for any time you can put towards that.
That's awesome. And yeah, I was just talking with Michael about a couple of things yesterday, and I have to say, if you've been waiting to let's let them get through some development before I start plunking into it, now's a great time if you want to be on the early portion of the DSC stuff and giving us feedback. This is the perfect time. So if this is your space, now's the time to join us on it. So thanks, Michael. Really appreciate it. And with that, let's go over to my friend Sean and let's talk about some doc updates. How you doing, Sean?
Good. So as always, we have the monthly update, what's new in docs. In September, we did a lot of updates for all of the GA releases of the different things. So Crescendo and PS Readline and PS Resource Get, some new feedback provider documentation. And I just want to also reiterate the all the work that's going on in the DSC space. You can get to the DSC docs from the top nav here. Mikey has been a documentation fiend. There's, I think, 93 total new articles between the version 3 documentation he has here and the DSC samples documentation that he's published. And you can see the source code for all those samples here in the DSC samples repo. I've got links for all of this in the chat. I wanted to also point out a new Azure PowerShell docs style guide that's been published publicly. Mike Robbins recently added this. This is builds on top of the PowerShell docs style guide that we have over in the PowerShell docs space and calls out the differences here, mostly around when to use the interactive try it now buttons and things like that. So if you're contributing to docs, be sure you take a look at our style guides. And speaking of which, contributing to docs, it is October, still October. Hacktoberfest is going on. We participate in Hacktoberfest as well as the PowerShell code repo. So if you want to make contributions and they qualify, we'll mark those so you can get credit for Hacktoberfest. And I think that was my list.
Oh, really?
Thanks.
Wow. And I just have to say, everyone, Sean is so appreciative of everyone that makes contributions. I mean, he calls me on the phone and is like, look at this, this is great. So this is a great time right now to be doing some contributions if that is your thing. It's very helpful to all of us on the team to help us check our stuff.
Sean?
So thank you.
Is there a particular area you'd like extra contributions? There's still half of October or Hacktoberfest left, roughly.
So we have, let me share my screen again.
Sure.
Actually, let's not derail. You can take
Well,
this offline with me.
Just real quickly, out in our contributors guide space, we have this contributing quality improvements, and there's cleanup work we would certainly appreciate.
Okay, cool.
So
I'll take that and run with it.
Yeah, and we have some guidance here about what we're looking for. Also in the issues, there's at least one up for grabs here. And I should probably mark a couple of more, but
that one looks right up an alley of mine.
yeah.
I would love to give you some 2 cents on it, but I also already feel bad for wasting the community time by asking. So let's keep going. Sorry.
It's all good. It helps everybody. So thanks, Sean. That's actually really great. So let's see if we can find Steve Lee again, and let's have him talk about some GitHub issue updates.
Okay, so this is specifically for the PowerShell repo, and there's a discussion that we've been having in the PowerShell committee over the last couple of weeks. And so first off, we really want to thank all the people who've opened up issues, okay? But because of that, we have around 3,500 issues in the PowerShell repo, and it's become basically unmanageable. And it's very hard to tell like what is actually important and what should we focus our efforts around, right? And just by the way, I think the working groups have been doing a tremendous job paring those down. But even then, like 3,500, and I'm not even sure what our incoming rate is, but it's been very difficult to kind of get it down to something that make sense. So what we decided is we are going to have a bit more aggressive resolution and closing of the issues so that we can hopefully just see what's remaining is the ones that need attention. So what we're going to do, and I believe we decided we're going to enact this on November 1st, all right? So we're not going to do it right away, but November 1st, we're going to have a basically a bot where any issue that has had no activity for 6 months or more will get a resolution tag of no activity. And then along with our normal bot closing, so basically any issue, so this won't affect pull requests. So any issue that has a resolution tag, and we have a bunch like, by design won't fix, answer, whatever the case may be, then basically after 7 days, a different bot will automatically close that issue. All right. So what this means is that some really old stuff, if it still has activity, then nothing will change. For any old, again, 6 months or more issue that has had no activity on it, it will get a label attached, resolution, no activity, and then after 7 more days, if there's still no activity, then it will get closed. Now, if the original person or anyone who is following that issue decides, hey, this is actually something that is important, then what we would recommend is probably opening up a new issue, making sure that you try it with the latest version of PowerShell 7 to make sure that's still an issue. And we really need to also understand, like, is it blocking? Is it an inconvenience? Things of that sort that help us prioritize how we focus our efforts and how the working groups can focus their efforts. So that is coming again November 1st. And I believe our first estimate looking at the issues and the dates for them, we expect, I think it was almost 3,000 or so is going to get
Yes, sir.
resolved.
Yeah.
So we'll be left with around 500 to 600. So that sounds like a big number, but to be honest, even 500 to 600 active issues is a large number. And I expect that some people may, decide to reply, so that will affect the activity, and those will stay open for now. And people may open new ones, right? So it's going to be an ongoing process. So just keep that in mind. That's coming.
That's awesome. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, we appreciate your help during this as we try to call out these issues that are no longer important because of their age, but keep the ones that really are so we can do a better focus on them. We really appreciate the community's help in doing that. So
Well, let me add one more thing before we
Sure.
move off this topic. I almost forgot. So one other thing that really helps us, and by the way, some of this will get documented within the repo, but I know a lot of people don't read the repo documentation. Reactions to issues also help the committee and the working groups kind of decide what is actually important. So one of the problems has been, like, people are using thumbs up to mean different things, right? They're like, I agree, or it has happened to me, or whatever. We'll try to define some more clear rules on which emojis mean what. But if there are issues that are impactful, then adding a reaction does help us know, like, hey, even though this is an older thing, maybe we should still pay attention to it, right? So that's a very minimal thing to do. Just click on that little reaction button, and that gives us a small piece of data.
I will
Thanks.
try to be more reactive. I would also lightly suggest that you differentiate blockers into hard blockers and soft blockers. Hard blockers are, I can't do it anyway without PowerShell's help. And soft blockers are, well, I could do it with PowerShell's help better, but I could figure out this workaround. And as much as I love PowerShell growing and improving, I'm able to accept a lot of soft blockers. And I think a lot of other people should also be able to accept a lot of soft blockers. And getting that differentiation for yourself as you create it might help clarify every issue author's real level of blocking, so that we're not all like, yes, I'm totally blocked, you need to fix this tomorrow, because we don't really. All right, that's 2 cents done.
Yep. I think that's a good call out. Like, workarounds are various shades of gray. Like, there's also a discovery problem, but those are taken into account as well if you're truly blocked and can't move forward with your business. So, all right, thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Steve. Now, folks, I don't know. Have you guys heard about this little tiny conference that's going to pop up here around November 15th? I think it's called Ignite. Yeah, that's it. So Microsoft's getting ready to do their big Ignite show, and this year is probably the biggest one for Microsoft in a very long time. And so, well, what are we going to do? And so, fortunately, we've got Sydney and Stephen to tell us what's going to happen at Ignite.
Well, thanks, Jason. Well, we're getting very excited for Ignite. The countdown is definitely on. We're less than a month away. And we're very excited that we have 2 kind of opportunities to present as like official type sessions at Ignite. So I'll be doing a demo on secret management, and then we have a bunch of the team is going to be there to do a discussion. You want to kind of speak to that?
Yeah, so we'll be doing a discussion around kind of everything PowerShell 7. We'll be talking about kind of open source community stuff, as well as enhancements that we're doing in PowerShell 7, as well as all the modules, kind of an overarching discussion about everything that we're working on. We don't have a date yet of when those sessions will be. We know it's going to be during Ignite. We just don't know the exact day or time. However, for those appearing in person, we would love to see you there. Otherwise, these sessions will both be recorded and available on the free digital registration that you can do at Ignite. So yeah, we're very excited to be at Ignite, and we'll be expecting a lot of content kind of coming out around there.
Yeah, and certainly if you are in Seattle during Ignite, please find us, please reach out to us. We are going to be there all week and are there to hang out with you, talk to you, hear about what you're doing with PowerShell and all sorts of issues that you're running into, I'm sure. And hopefully have some fun social time as well. So we look forward to connecting with you at Ignite, whether that's, virtually or in person. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yep, I think that covers it. So
That is
thanks.
awesome. I think even Sydney's going to let me show up too. This is going to be a
Yeah,
blast. So,
we got passes for
yay!
the whole team.
So, hey, folks, if you already know that you're coming to Ignite, give us a thumbs up so we just have some kind of idea that we have some of our community call folks that are going to be showing up. But we're going to be there, so it's going to be a lot of fun if you're going to be making it there. So we look forward to seeing everybody. Oh, hey, yeah, we got somebody raising their hand. They're going to be here. That's awesome. So. Next on the list. Oh, this is actually easy. Thanks, guys, for hanging around, because the next one comes to you too. So, what are we going to do about this November community call? There's this thing like Thanksgiving in the way and stuff like that.
Yeah, so well, actually, speaking of Ignite, so well, the third Thursday of November is around the American holiday for Thanksgiving. So a lot of us on the team will be out during that Thursday. We tried doing it the week before, however, that's also Ignite. So we're looking at the last Thursday of November, which I believe is November 30th. That we will have the November PowerShell OpenSSH community call then. And I
Is
think
it the last team
Yeah,
call
so-
for us?
So we're planning on doing a little bit of a special call for the November call. The plan at this point is to do sort of like a working group focused call and have like various members from the working groups kind of present on what their working group has been up to and that sort of thing. So you won't be hearing as much from the team, and it won't be as much of like a traditional just like update on the things we've released, but more from the community and more from working group members, kind of recapping the year and that sort of thing. So that's sort of the general plan for the November call. And then I think last month we talked about using the December call as sort of giving it to the community and having the community kind of do whatever y'all would like to do with that call.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how do we know what the community wants to do for that call? Is there a place that where they can contact us or something?
We have I believe Ryan Yates opened up an issue in our discussions tab for our community call. We also have, of course, the discussion tab for our November call, which also gives the updated date there. But I believe we'll be kind of sorting out and figuring out what the community wants to do in the December call in that location there. So if anyone has any particular topics or things they feel strongly about to bring up or talk about or show off, definitely add it there.
I might. It might be festively perfect, but I do actually already have smart light automation, including around twinkly lights. So if we don't have anything else by default, it gives me an excuse to actually set up Christmas lights and do PowerShell stuff with them this year.
It'd be fun. For sure. So yeah, so look forward to 2 fun calls the last 2 months of the year. Definitely. I'm just seeing some chat messages too. If you are curious, Ignite is in the new Summit building, and definitely we will be doing some sort of social event during Ignite for PowerShell people. We're just waiting on the final Ignite schedule to come out to kind of announce when that might happen.
Yeah, and if you're an
That's
MVP, there's a number of MVP events going on outside of the normal Ignite session that you should keep an eye out.
awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much. And with that, we're now going to go to our community announcements demo and all that kind of stuff with the time that we have remaining. And the first up that I have, and actually this is the only thing that I have, but we'll figure it out. We're kind of scrappy as we move along here. James Petty, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, great. Let's talk about Summit, man.
Yeah, so the PowerShell and DevOps Global Summit, it's going to be in Bellevue. We had to move it up a few weeks. I don't know if Missy's on the call, but something about a high school graduation, and I was threatened very heavily, so I had to move it. So April
It is
8th
not my fault.
So April 8th to the 11th, we're moving back to the Maiden Bower. But right now, the CFP, or the call for papers, is open. And while we are tracking to have kind of, a full agenda, and missing the committee, content committee, their jobs are already going to be tough. But we want to make sure we get as many kind of papers and stuff as possible so that we can make the best so we can have the best conference. And the people here on the call are the ones that we want to be able to join us. You all have something valuable to share, so we want to hear your story. So if you have any questions about, hey, will this make a good good presentation, or is this something that you want to hear about, feel free to shoot me a message, or some of the other content committee members. We'll be happy to kind of work through those for you. The deadline is November 15th, so you got just under a month to get those pencils sharpened. And also, we're bringing back something we haven't done this, I think, since 2016, but we're doing a half-day conference and hands-on labs on Monday. So we're kind of changing the schedule up a little bit. So instead of traditional 45-minute, 90-minute, I think these are 3 or 3.5 hour kind of half-day deep dives. So we already got a lot of those, but we definitely need a few more of those as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Very exciting. And also, I'd like to point out a message that Sydney had just put in also. Hope to see folks at the PS Conf EU MiniCon next week. Sydney, do you have any more information about that?
I'm sure
Sorry.
if you go to, I don't have the link handy.
Okay.
These are my hands. But I do know that it is on the 24th, which is next Tuesday. Oh, there we go. We've got a link.
Justin Grody,
Free to
thank you,
attend.
sir.
It's all virtual. I think we've got some great sessions lined up. I think it's about a half-day conference taking place in the evening time in Europe. So for any West Coast US folks, it's going to be in the morning on Tuesday. Looking forward to connecting with folks. It's on the Gather platform, which is kind of like fun. You get to like walk around and kind of see people. It gives
Yeah.
conference vibes. So yeah, should be a good experience. And yes, also don't want to not plug. Also very excited for PS Summit in April as well. So
It's awesome. Thanks, Sydney. All right, folks, real quick, I just want to check with the PowerShell team if there's anybody here on the call of the PowerShell team that has anything else that they'd like to let the community know or say anything about before. And folks, I've been watching the chats. I haven't seen necessarily any questions that we haven't answered yet. So feel free at this time to chat in some questions. Also, we have a few extra minutes. If there's 1 or 2 people that'd like to do a really quick demo, we might be able to squeeze those in if you'd like to type in what you'd like to do, since we have a couple of minutes. But just checking with the PowerShell team, is there anything else, any other announcements? And I'm not getting an immediate response. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to make one for the CloudShell team. Hopefully, maybe next month, I'll even get a chance to demonstrate this for y'all. But we are looking forward to coming out with 2 new things over the next month. One of them is ephemeral sessions. Ephemeral sessions don't require that you have a storage account. What ephemeral sessions basically means is that you don't have persistent storage in CloudShell. And if you don't need persistent storage, this is a much lighter weight way of doing it. We've made a lot of VNet improvements along the way, but the other thing that we have coming out is a new UX, basically a new toolbar to get us ready for some new additional features that we'll be making announcements about down the road. So I'll be happy to show you those new features as soon as they come out. And That's the only thing that I have. So with that, let's see here. Let me check for questions. And I'm not looking at the issue or the discussion page itself. So if somebody wants to check, that could help me out here with questions. Right now, I'm not seeing any. Love the ephemeral session. Thank you. What is PSES? What am I missing here?
A PowerShell editor services, I think.
No. We have a new plan going forward for editing services, and it's going to make Andy really happy. So,
Oh, now I want to know more about this new plan.
yeah, well, you're going to have to wait for that.
Shucks. Oh well.
We're still working
come
on
on.
it.
Go
ahead,
Can we get a
Steve.
hint? Like, I deal with this every day. I live in editor services. Come on.
All right, I see a question from Chris. A very common question. Basically, I think the question is basically, when is Windows going to get PowerShell 7 inbox? So there's no update on this at this point. It's the same answer I've had in the past. Basically, .NET, meaning .NET, not .NET Framework, doesn't have the support lifecycle that is required to ship in Windows itself. Windows requires at least a 5+5, and if it's in Azure, they add more years for support. So basically, that's the blocking factor for us to ship PowerShell 7 in Windows. But we've made a lot of effort to make it easier to install PowerShell 7 on Windows, right? You got WinGet, you got the Microsoft Store. We also have the new install PowerShell command. And beyond, we have like Microsoft Update. So we're like almost in Windows, but not exactly. So, and that's unfortunately how it's going to be for some time.
Thank you, Steve. So what other questions does everybody have?
Well, I got some high-level community goings-on to kind of report, although
Okay,
I wish
go
I had
ahead,
already
James.
created the invite. So we just finished up month 2 of the Pacific PowerShell user group. We had Anthony Howell come and talk PowerShell and .NET. That was fun. That was great. Next month, we're going to be having Bruce Payette talk Braid and PowerShell, which should be really fun. So that's going to be November 8th, not in the past, sorry. November 8th, 6 p.m. You can go to meetup.com, Pacific PowerShell user group, and sign up there. We'll be putting the link up shortly. We'll also be uploading this month's to YouTube. So yay. Also, I will continue to do the nudge, nudge, wink, wink, January, February, still unbooked PowerShell team members, got cool things you want to talk about with the community, we will want speakers. So nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. That's the big one on that front. I can always jump into a fun demo or two. I would love to talk through some of the stuff that Steve Lee and Steve Bucher and I have been talking about in terms of shell improvement. There's also some really cool PRs coming down the pike that we could discuss. This is the last 15 minutes though, and it's meant for all of us. So if I'm the only one running my lips, it's a big problem. So shutting up
there's someone,
now.
D. Catan, I don't know the first name, says they have a demo if you want to.
Oh, yeah. So let's
Yeah,
go
I'm
ahead
in.
and.
All right, I'm Darren. Hi.
Darren, let's do it.
All right, so I'll share my screen and show you guys like kind of what I've been working on here. Where is it? Oh, does it let me? I think you have to allow me to share my screen, maybe. Where are we at here?
Oh.
I'm really curious what you guys are going to do for IntelliSense.
You should have presenter rights now.
Oh, I see it. Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, so I've been spending a lot of time with dynamic parameters recently, and I did something kind of neat. I built a little web form around. So I was kind of inspired when I discovered the notion of show command. Like, I didn't know this existed. Did you guys know that this existed? Where like a formal pop-up.
But I always wish it was better and less like tied to the ISE. Like, I really always wanted a show command in browser. I built a few of them over the years myself, but yeah, I knew it existed. I just wish it was not so locked to the ISE.
It's not.
And nudge, nudge, wink, wink, PowerShell team, give show command some love.
It's not locked to ISC. Look, I'm in PowerShell 7 right here, just a regular terminal, and it spawns it. So like that was cool, but this wasn't really powerful enough for what I wanted it to do. So what we did is we made our own version of this in the web. And so what this lets me do in my little script editor is go in and actually get real-time data back. So like, okay, for example, let me comment out this. Now I'm running in constrained language mode, and so I can't like instantiate a lot of types that aren't considered like core types. So on the left, I would have like the parameters that exist. So like this is my little debugger pane. All right. And if I were to drop like a real parameter in here, I could do like my param, and that would show up as like a text box by default. If I were to refresh the little parameter guy, I can make it mandatory using all your standard attributes, right? So if I were to do, let me get this in the right spot, parameter, like this, and then mandatory, it'll do. By the way, did y'all know in editor services by default, you can't like control space and get the attribute like properties? I had to add the tab completion ++ to get that. Anyway, that should be built in. Regardless, I'm going to make this mandatory. And I'm going to go here. That's going to make it like whatever. Okay, I can also built in a lot of like, other helper things like drop down attributes. So I could say like, make this drop down based on the output of a script block or whatever. But for the sake of like argument and what I'm trying to get done here, I made these, I made a wrapper around the creation of the runtime parameter dictionary, and then I made a wrapper commandlet around the new runtime defined parameter. And then ultimately, if I were to refresh this again, this goes and just does like get command, and it binds in whatever values I have here, and it'll let me, select things. Now, this is actually pulling from an API, which I thought was kind of neat, right? So now you could have a form that comes from an API. Well, it's kind of neat. But what if I wanted to be able to select something from there? Okay, so let's say this isn't NetEdge versions, but let's say this is, what would you call that? Like stable, canary, let's just call it branch, right? So I'm going to rename that to branch, and then I want to see what the available versions are for that given branch, right? So then I could take this and I could say, all right, well then the releases are going to be basically the branch that was selected. So I could say, all right, edge versions where, let's see, let's go look. I'm outputting this the variable here. So I could say, okay, they have product canary. I guess I could say where product equals branch, right? And then that's going to be the releases. Okay, so here, instead of, I'm going to provide the valid options over here. So I could simply say valid values now becomes the, what did I call it? Releases, right? Anyway, so what's the problem I have here, all right, and I put in a PR for this, but I cannot get community buy-in, which is why I'm bringing this up, is this is all great and it works in my editor because of the way that I'm abusing the parameter binder. But if I were to actually make this into a function and try to call it, it wouldn't work because the way you have to return that parameter dictionary means that the value of branch is never bound. So this condition of like, oh, I need these versions that are based on this branch you selected in the previous dropdown, I'll never get it. So if anyone's trying to do things with dynamic parameters where the value of one parameter controls the available values on the next parameter, I really need you guys to show your support for this PR. Usually for real-time parameter binding, it's in there.
Yeah, this is really cool work. Adding a little bit of extra bonus points here, I think that beyond just the real-time dynamic parameter binding, we should really, as a language, be better with mutually exclusive parameters and conditional parameters. Like right now, you're either really complicated dynamic parameters or bust if you wanted to have a parameter that only sometimes shows up when other things are provided or when the engine is in a certain state. I think that if we figure out a good way to crack the conditional parameters nut, we'll open up a lot more capability for PowerShell overall, One, and two, real-time binding would be really cool. I deal with dynamic parameters a lot, and every time that I end up dealing with dynamic parameters, I end up rewriting the same, like, 5 lines of call stack peeking to go look through my AST, because it's the only way I can actually get a sense of what things will be bound to before they bind. And being able to do that sort of conditional omitting of values would be really, really handy for the scenarios where there is a lot of ambiguity. So that would be really, really awesome. I think I've already given a couple of cents into the PR itself, but I think that it would be a really big win to have both this and to invest in how the hell we do dynamic parameters, or not dynamic parameters, conditional parameters better. So that's one big one.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I got. That's my demo.
Hey, Darren, that's great. And I just wanted to alert you to James Petty dropping you a comment in the chat. I think he's trying to get you to present that at PS Summit, which would be awesome.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
That'd be kind of cool.
What about parameter sets 2.0, JB Lewis at external? What do you mean parameter sets 2.0? I am failure to parse here. Although I don't entirely disagree. Okay. Moving a bit on for that, if you guys want other light demos, I keep making this nice little PowerShell module called Posh that keeps making the shell experience better. And I did add a few bells and whistles this month that I could show off if nobody else has anything, but I
Tell you
continue
what,
to
James,
say
if you can do it
first.
if you can do it in 4 minutes, it's yours. But at 4
I can
minutes,
do it
I'm
in
going to have to
4
call you.
And that's
sir.
it. All right, I'll
I can
relinquish
do it in
control.
4 minutes. Let me go ahead and open up VS Code. And then I'll start screen sharing. Okay, maybe X and 30 seconds. Okay. Back over to the meeting. Start to share. Looks like I do not have rights yet.
Oh, I'm trying to give you permissions.
It's okay. I can wait. It's a relatively quick one. Although I will keep going through the basics if anybody hasn't already seen it.
And I don't seem to be able to find where I can give you the permissions if somebody can help me out.
I think that might be a Steve Lee problem. So that's okay. I'll be here next
I
month
should not
too.
be the only one who can give permission. You just
I
have to
hope
hit
not.
the 3 dots. Find the person. Let's see, James Brenda.
Is
Hit the 3 dots.
it just allow camera?
No, make a presenter.
Oh, I don't have
Yeah.
that.
You don't have, well,
Yeah,
I think
we'll
Sydney
figure
and
it out.
Steven also. Jason, we can take this offline to get you permission to do that.
Okay.
That's okay. I also can wait till next month. We said only 3 minutes, and we burned 2 of them
Well,
on
we
setup,
burned 2 of them. So
back
if you
to
don't
you,
mind, James,
Jason.
wait until next month. We'll just do it.
I don't
next month.
mind. Posh keeps getting cooler every new release, so it'll be cooler next month too.
That's awesome. Then let's do that, my friend.
All right.
Well, with that, is there any last minute questions before we go ahead and wrap up this call? Oh, I don't see anything. So let me just say, everyone, thank you so much for all your support to PowerShell. We hope we're being as open and providing you with the information to help you make decisions about where you're going with PowerShell. We love talking to everybody, so we look forward to seeing you in the future at the November community call, which, remember, I think Steven said is November 30th, so that is a change from our normal lineup, but we look forward to seeing you then. Until then, hope to see you at Ignite. Have a great month, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Later.